Some zebras. Quite useful when they're facing away from us. In terms of sexing zebras, as soon as we find one that is facing directly away, so okay, so this one that's just walked through the screen is a stallion. Where as soon as we find one that is facing directly away, so okay, so this one that's just walked through the screen is a stallion. Where their cheeks of their hind quarters meet, the stallion's cheeks will be flush, whereas the females will have a kind of vertical black stripe like the one furthest walking down the road. So that's a female walking down the road furthest in the shot, and a male's hind quarters would touch, so you don't get that vertical black stripe. Which is being displayed to us now. It's not often that they play along with us in terms of what we're explaining, but they did perfectly there. Quite interesting to see how fluffy the younger foal's coat is relative to the older ones. Morning, Chris. Chris has asked whether I've seen any snakes around since I've been here, and sadly the answer to that is no. I do love seeing snakes, and this is the time of year to do it. Come to the low fault at a time if you wanted to see snakes, but sadly we haven't seen any yet. I'm keeping my eyes peeled. I know Ryan is as well. We both very anxious to find the first African rock python, which is probably my favorite snake. It's got beautiful colorations. They can get up to about 5 meters, 6 at the biggest. But the answer to that is no. They are quite secretive animals in that they would rather avoid confrontation or contact, so they may slither off as soon as they feel the vibrations or hear a vehicle. Quite a few snake tracks crossing the road. We know they to find one. We will be lucky a bit later on today. Now, we have a bird sitting on top of this termite mound, and I believe it is the female black-bellied bustard, also known as a Quran. I'm just going to double check in the book for you. Yes, so Brian's just going to zoom into the book here, and this individual here is who we are looking at. The male is very differently colored, and it does a very unique mating call, and they often use termite mounds to perform this mating call, this performance. So it's interesting to see the female up there. It almost should be a roles reversed, that a male should be up there calling her. In the next few weeks, they will start to increase the intensity of their mating and their courtship. So we will definitely be able to show you some of that. It's a very interesting call that finishes with the sound of a champagne bottle popping. Eric on Twitter has just asked what I do for a living, which is a very good question. I try and have as much fun as possible, and in terms of remuneration or income, I've been in the safari industry now for 6 years, where I started off at a guide in a lodge within the Sabi Sands for 3.5 years, and then the urge to travel and explore new places bit me, and I headed up to East Africa, where I spent time in Kenya and Tanzania, where I did a combination of private guiding, tailor-made safaris, where you would follow guests from camp to camp over a 2-week or 12-day safari, which is really a lot of fun, and it gets you to some of the most beautiful places in the world or in Africa, and you're moving, which is great, so you don't become stagnant in one place. I really did enjoy that. After the private guiding, I did a bit of camp management and guide training at various lodges, and now, after 2 years being there, I am back home in South Africa, which is great. Sorry, I've just seen something that I'd like to show you, but there's a road ahead that we'll take in order to get us there. So yes, I've been in the safari industry, either guiding or managing camps, or a little bit of guide training up in East Africa. Thanks for that question, Eric. Okay, folks, you wouldn't believe it, but the animals really are performing and playing along with us today. This now is the male black-bellied bustard, and if we're lucky, I'm sure he'll perform his courting call for us. As I said, they often perch themselves up on termite mounds, and I'll try and imitate their call beforehand so that you know what you're in for. They kind of go, the little pup at the end is the champagne cork popping, and they perform a very funny kind of maneuver with their neck as the call progresses. Here we go. I hope you could hear that as well as we did, because it really is an awesome call, and I can't believe that it's taken a matter of minutes to show it to you guys after seeing the female a bit further back there. That was a luck. So in between calling, it appears that he's kind of doing his makeup, making himself look good. a very important part of the courtship process is purely on appearance, and he is straightening out all the feathers and making himself look as handsome as possible. Just as we do as humans, I guess. So, not much difference there. Irresistible. Irresistible. We'll leave him to it. We don't want to get in the way of any romancing that he has to do today. Folks, I've got good news. Hayden's found something very, very exciting. We will catch up with you later. Enjoy.
Well, folks, there you go. Good morning. 5 beautiful male lions. Only youngsters, probably only about 2.5 years old, but fantastic. What a great start to the day. All just resting, but still very alert of what's going on. Temperature's beautiful, about 20 degrees Celsius, 64 Fahrenheit, which is very comfortable. You can see they're not panting, they're just really relaxed. So fantastic to be sitting here first thing. We're not even 25 minutes in this morning, and we've already got 5 lions. Two up the back are definitely showing very alert signs and watching what's going on. Any unsuspecting animal walking onto them, it could end up being breakfast. This boy right at the back here, he's definitely pricking his ears up. Anything he can hear, he's very alert. The others are a little bit sleepy. Yeah, he's the one. Got a question from Josh on email. Hi Josh, and welcome aboard. Josh is asking whether these males will ever have females, or when will they have females in the pride. Well, it's a little bit of a process, Josh, and anything could happen. The dynamics in a line pride are quite volatile. Sometimes you can have things called coalitions, which is what these 5 boys could potentially hold on to, and that would make them an incredible force to be reckoned with. They would be very, very strong and very, very powerful. They would potentially take over any pride that came into their reach, and that would mean that they would use their size and power and numbers to potentially push another male off a pride, or potentially kill him. That does happen, but sometimes the animal will just move away because of he would sort of see the power and the strength in these 5. And then if that situation did occur, there's a potential that they would stay together, and then within those 5 there's normally not a huge amount of aggression amongst the 5. It's more theatrical, and one would sort of potentially be more dominant than the other and get the mating right at the time, just through a small sort of display. There's never normally a lot of substance to it. But then again, I have seen also 2 males in a pride once before, and the one that was more dominant, this was in Tanzania, the one that was more dominant out of the 2 males really didn't care less if the other male mated with the females. So it was interesting. There's just so many incredible dynamics within a pride. Once they start to get to a size that's too big, or not necessarily too big, but 5 males and say 15 females is like quite a big pride, and it can be socially unstable at that point as well. So the dynamics can be very volatile when there's 5 boys like this, but at the same time the strength in the numbers definitely do allow them to spread their genes quite successfully. So it's a matter of them. They've got a few years to go. They've probably got about 2 or 3 years to go before they might do it a little bit earlier because of their numbers. But when they get their full manes and into their full size, they're only about 2.5 years old. These guys, a little bit, maybe 3, but I'd say 2.5 to 3 years old. And then they'll start to make their mark. You can see they're definitely not sounding off or anything like that, or vocalizing to show their presence. They're just in the area and looking for a bit of a meal at the moment, I think. We just got another good question from Tamara on Twitter. Hi Tamara, and welcome aboard. To answer your question, which is what are the scars on their faces from? Is it from bugs, kills, or fights? It's probably the latter two. Animals can get, particularly lion that are attacking large herbivores, or buffalo or other antelope, can definitely have wounds inflicted upon them from massive horns that these animals have. So yes, there can be the odd scar from getting their food, but the other thing is that they really do have some battle scars from just little scraps that they've had within the pride, and that might have happened when they were younger. It might have happened around a kill with a big male, maybe their father or one of the other females. There's loads of different ways that it can happen, and they'll probably have a collection of scars and some stories from those, if they could speak, from many a moon. But there'll be many more to come as well, and some animals may have more than others. You can see the one at the back that's sort of facing us now, he's got a couple of scars. Can we go a bit closer to him, please, VM? I'm just going to look also through my binoculars at him to see. He's got a couple of little scars there, but it's the one on the left of us, closest to us, with his back to us, lying on the trail. He's the one that's got the most scars on his face. This guy here, if he turns around, we'll get a look at his face there. He's got some scars on him, and it's just really, life in the pride, really. Life in the pride, life as an apex predator. You're going to come off with some pretty reasonable battle scars. But wow, how lucky is this, folks? The reason why I was talking a little bit softer, folks, is we had another vehicle next to us, and I didn't want to disturb them. I was speaking quite close to the microphone, but the other vehicle's left now, so I can bring my volume up a little bit. It doesn't affect the animals, that's for sure. We're about 5 meters away from these guys. So if you've just joined us, these are a beautiful group of 5 males that will be building a coalition, what we call a coalition. They're about 2.5 to 3 years old, probably, at a guess, and they'll probably stay together. They can fragment off and come back, and I'm just going to try and get confirmation if these are the four of the boys that we saw the other day over on Arathusa. I'm not sure, and whether the other brother has met. And what that was the Birmingham Pride. And the Birmingham Pride was 4 boys, and I'm pretty sure that there's 6. Okay, we've just had confirmation from Will, has let us know it is the Birmingham Pride, and these are so 4 of these boys are the ones we saw the other day, and one of their brothers has rejoined with them, and that sort of fragmentation does occur. They may stay together, but they also one may split off and not come back and join these guys. It's really dynamic in what happens, and it depends on so many things. So I think there was actually 6, or was there 5? Let me just check with Will. Will, was there 6 in the Birmingham Pride, or was it always 5? Yeah, right. Will's just confirmed it was 6. I thought it was. From the notes that I've read, there was 6 boys, and that just goes to show you that one of them isn't here, and who knows what he is up to. But that dynamic is quite easily broken But once they start to get older and they start to build that bond and that coalition a little bit stronger and stronger, you might find that 4 of them stick together, or 3 of them stick together, or all of them. It might be nice just to sit with these guys for a little bit. I know they're flat at the moment. There's a couple of them looking up. It's the boy at the back that I'm interested in. He keeps he's looking around with a nice attentive look at the moment, and I just picture him locking onto something. Folks, I just got a great question from many of you, actually. A lot of people asking the same question, and just a couple to name out of those people. And thank you, all of you, because you're very, very, you know, the questions that come through are really great, and it steers us to what you want to know. Particularly Jeannie and KP on Twitter, and many others have asked us. Yeah, there's definitely an attentiveness going here, guys, so we're going to stick with these guys, but did you see that? Everyone's just looked up. Jeannie and KP, I'm definitely coming to your question, but I just want to talk about this behaviour that's happening right in front of our eyes. Okay, these guys have got fantastic cover here, absolutely beautiful cover, and just as I thought, they've started to just put some eyes out, and once one has triggered the others, they're all just stopping to look. Folks, I'm just going to pop off a couple of photographs. You may hear my camera going. It's just that I'd like to take some shots of these individuals. We're going to work with them. I'm just going to roll the car back. Jeannie and KP, I'm definitely coming back to your question, okay? I just want to follow this behaviour. We've got 3 out of the 5 have just gotten up and walked across this lovely little drainage line here, and they're hiding in this bit of cover. Now, Liam can just swing through here and have a look. Using this little bit of cover, this vegetation just here on my right. I've got a very, very bad signal here, folks, so I'm trying to drive very slowly. Bear with me, please. We've got this individual crossing the road now. Just driving really slowly for 2 reasons. A, I don't want to affect anything that they're doing, and B, our signal is a little bit dodgy here. So I'm just going to wait for them to all get into position. They definitely were alert, and they're just crossing over into another reserve at the moment. I'm on the border. That's a beautiful shot, looking right at us. Isn't that beautiful? What a morning shot. Just going to move up a bit, folks. a little bit tricky for me. They got onto this other reserve, which is unfortunately I'm going to have to watch from a distance here. Unfortunately I'm going to have to watch from a distance here. I'm going to just park you up here so you can still see, and we've got a reasonable range. They've just moved over into this vegetation. But you never know what could happen. It's a beautiful shot just here behind you, Liam. Just there. To the ground to see if they come back. They were right on the border this morning. Yeah, so that's why I really wanted to come up. But they've moved off into the bush there. Guinean Cape grow up and survive without coming into too much conflict with other big males. They're potentially going to tackle it. So the dynamics are incredible. You've got and scientists that spend immense amounts of time with those particular pride and could probably tell you each individual's dominance or order. For us, when we come across them, we start to notice a couple of the individuals, and as Cedric, who fantastic guide who just brought me in on that, he's a great guy and he's helped us out so much. He was saying that a couple of them are a little bit unconfident compared to the other three as I just drove up, because I just wanted to reposition our vehicle for us for a better shot. And I asked him, I said, you think they'd be okay? And he said, yeah, there's a couple of them that are a little bit unconfident, but try it, and we're okay. So they gain their confidence over time with us as well. They look completely relaxed there. There was no problems whatsoever with us being there, but they heard something well beyond our range of hearing. I did hear a little bit of sort of commotion over there. It did sound like wildebeest, but who knows. We'll just cruise slowly up this road, keeping looking in, and you never know what we could see. They might come in and come out, so we'll just see how we get on. Sometimes we take photographs, folks, and I hope I'll always tell you when we do, if you hear the clicking going on in the background, a bit of rustling around. We've got our equipment always in, waterproof and dustproof bags, and it all makes a bit of a rustle and things like that, but I'm sure you're okay with that. Right, well, what a great way to start the morning. Yeah, 5 lines, not bad. We haven't been over this side very much, Liam and I, over the last week, so when we had a chat this morning, when Will said, what would you like to do, guys, I just sort of said, it'd be really nice to come over this side of the reserve, and Liam and I have had some really great experiences over here with lion and leopard and wild dog, for that matter, and there was talk of wild dog as well last night around the fire. We were sharing some intelligence that we got from some of the guides, and Pete was telling me about the beautiful pride that he had yesterday afternoon, which sounded so nice. the females up the tree and everything like that. A lot of interaction, which is beautiful. But beautiful to see those 5 boys this morning. Really healthy, really strong, and they were the Birmingham Pride. I like to call them the Birmingham Boys. Just looking out through this now to see if we can get any glimpse of them, or if they've gone deep in to that bush. And they're a beautiful, bright sort of golden colour line, but and you can see them, you know, in quite clearly at this time of the year. But once they're in about 100 metres, 300 feet, you definitely lose them very, very quickly. It's just the depth of the vegetation there that you can struggle. The human eye is very, very and have got excellent vision, but when it comes to that really thick vegetation through there that we're looking through, very difficult to see. We'll go up here slowly, keep chatting a little bit. He's got his eyes out there as well, and is a little elevated than me. Sometimes that can work to our benefit, and sometimes to you can be that little bit too high where you're having to get down really, really low to look through. We'll combine our positioning. So always keeping our eye out and listening to the radio. Okay, we've gone in. Going to just talk to your Game Drive channel, folks. Just excuse me. They're just incredible guides. They're specialists here. They help us out so much with intelligence on the ground. They've got all different ways around talking to each other. Whether there's 4 or 5 of them on one reserve, they pass each other loads of times in the day as well. Plus the rest, they've got their trackers on the front of their vehicles that all talk. They go into their groups at night, and in the morning they exchange information. It's just this fantastic intelligence network. And it's a really great help to us. So very, very thanks to them always. And, just a great guy. So where were we? We were just having a quiet drive. This is an interesting little, some incredible things. The last time I was driving down here, I have a vision of these wild dog, this pack coming up over this hill right here, and it was the 4 adults and the 6 pups, and they were just incredible. And then they went off into this area where we had that incredible encounter with them hunting. That was the second hunt that we did with the wild dog. So I've got a good feeling about this morning. I've got a really good feeling. So we're going to head down to Buffelshoek Dam now and see what we can see down there. Also, just bearing in mind our signal. Some drop down in the dips, and we might not have fantastic signal. I think everyone that's with us, knows that. But Will does an incredible job managing that and keeping us updated on our signal. Swapping between vehicles. But the most important thing I need to say to you folks this morning, and this deserves an engine turn off, is Will Fox. Yes, Will Fox, Director of Operations and Final Control Centre Extraordinaire. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Will Fox. I had to say it, mate. If you get the opportunity to say that on camera to somebody, you've got to. Will Fox, happy birthday. I'm sure you'll get a few birthday messages now, but Will's sitting in the control room there. Another year younger. You can ask him how old he is, folks. I've got silence on the radio at the moment, folks, so I don't know what he's conjuring up for me. Copy. You, mate. Just bear with us, folks, on these this signal. Lovely zebra crossing in front of us. My message to you, sir. Good. So we'll just go slow through here because sometimes I have a little bit of signal break-up down here. Let's take it nice and easy. Good. That's what I wanted to hear. Will's just thanked me for the birthday message and said Twitter has gone mad. Well, that's great. That's great. He deserves it. He's a good man. I'm not going to sing happy birthday though, but we will do that tonight for him. Got a bit of a dinner plan for Will that he sort of knows about, but I've got a bit of a special recipe going for him tonight with Zanelli. Yeah, we'll tell you all about that tomorrow morning. But I've been having a bit of a chat with our wonderful Zanelli, our chef at our camp, and her and I have planned a little bit of a special meal for him and the team, which is nice. Always good to get your hands on the pans. And I did want to say a couple of thank yous on and sort of just mentions. There's a couple of groups on Ustream. I think Mike Morrow is one. It's asked several times, and I meant to say hi, Mike Morrow, to say hi to your group of, I think you call them chatterers or chatters. Hi to all you guys, and thank you so much for watching. And I really want to do that sort of shout out to teachers and educators again. Pete had a great response yesterday with one school, which is just brilliant. It's gold for us. It's absolute fun. It just makes our day when we get school groups and classes. So if you have a class or a group, or you're an educator and you want to get a question to us, all you've got to do is get the class together, get to know that you can get good streaming on. Email at questions@wildearth.tv or tweet us at #SafariLive, and we'll definitely try and get that question to you. Will I? Okay, we're just going to head down here and have a little look around. I'm going to cross over to Scott because he's going down to the hyena den, and they probably will be there. There might be some interesting behaviour happening in the morning. All right, we'll see you real soon.
Welcome back, folks. Very happy to hear that you got to see the coalition of male lions vocalizing. Happy and jealous at the same time. If I could choose one thing for people to see on safari, it would be male lions vocalizing. So, very happy for you guys. And happy Hayden got to see it as well. I know he's been having a few withdrawals, missing the cats. So happy to hear that he got his fix this morning. HT's been really great in helping teach me some tricks of the trade and calm me down before my first Wild Earth drive. He really is a great guy. Myself and Pete and HT were up last night around the fire back at camp, chatting, trading a few war stories, and it's wonderful that we all get along so well, and that goes for the whole team. Out here secluded with not too much other stimulation. It's very important to have a strong crew that gets along, and so far we are all one happy camp, which is wonderful. Now we are slowly making our way into the hyena den site. I believe I've yet to go there. This is my debut. But I do believe that this is the correct road. Okay. Brian's been extremely helpful in guiding me through some of the areas that he's already been to. On the way here, he pointed out an area where Karula had been seen. Him and Brian and Peter managed to find it a few weeks ago, I believe. And so important just to know the kind of hangouts or potential places where predators do move. They do have habits, just like us. We may be prone to use some shopping centres more than others, and animals are the... This youngster's attention. It could be some of the smaller saplings or trees popping back up after we've driven over them. A lot of them are very flexible and do spring back up after a few seconds. But like I was just saying about habits, it appears to me that this hyena and potentially others often use that little spot where it's lying down to relax. You can see it's almost created a little indentation there in the earth. So it just reaffirms what I said about animals having certain habits, just like we do. Young hyena like this are always beautiful to look at because they're flawless. No scratches or scars, but I'm sure that will change with time to come. They nurse for an abnormally long period of time, or suckle, so up to a year they'll rely on milk, which does make sense if you think about their lifestyle and the way that they obtain their meals. A lot of scavenging is done, not to say that they cannot hunt, but because they're scavenging, they are putting themselves in dangerous situations. So, you know, stealing from lion or leopard wouldn't be something that they could take an adolescent hyena along with for the show. So it's not safe for the youngsters to lead the life of an adult hyena. Therefore, they've adapted and evolved to nurse for an abnormally long period of time relative to other predators. It just goes to show how they are all unique and very well adapted for their lifestyles. You can see those ears swiveling around like satellite dishes, always on the lookout. Useful tools for hearing, and as you can see now, also disturbing flies that are pestering it. It's too early in the morning. Let me go back to sleep. Just going to have a quick look around the rest of the I'm just going to check the other side of this termite mound. in case there is anything happening over there. And then I think we should continue and see what else we can find. So nothing to see on this side of the mound. Like I said, it is my first time here, so I just want to understand how everything works here. And a question from Leanne on Twitter. She mentioned that it seems that in all the scenarios she's seen, the hyenas only have one pup. This does often end up to be the case, but it is not like that when the alpha female gives birth. They often give birth to two young, and this is kind of an insurance or safety mechanism to ensure that if one dies or doesn't make it at birthing stage, the other will be there as an insurance. But what that also means is that if both do survive up, you know, the birth, the bigger one and stronger one the bigger one and stronger one will tend to outcompete the smaller, weaker one, often resulting in death. It does vary from place to place, though. In my experiences, I've seen hyena den sites where both the alpha female and the beta female have both bred and raised four cubs. So there's no set rule in nature, but yes, a lot of the times there will only be one cub that is raised to adulthood. You'll also notice that I'm using the word cub. Are more closely related to the cat family than the dog family. However, they are in a family of their own, the Hyenidae family. So you would never think that looking at the hyena, but and I hope I kind of gave you everything that you need there. If we're lucky, it might come right up to the vehicle. Like most young animals, they can be inquisitive. Beautiful. just got another question from Kelly on Twitter. And Kelly has asked, how often do they change den sites or move den sites? Very good question. This is a great shot. You can see how close it is to us. The camera is fixed on a tripod, so Brian sadly cannot move it at this stage, but great to see how inquisitive and curious they are, and how habituated it's become over the months with the vehicle. But back to Kelly's question, den sites are usually inhabited for, in my experience, 2 weeks to a month, and then they often move. So not far, they may have a network of often termite mounds they use for their den sites, old termite mounds, abandoned termite mounds that either they excavate or other animals have excavated prior to them. And the reason why they move every 2 weeks to about a month is, especially when the youngsters are very small, they may defecate and urinate within the den sites, and even without that problem to deal with, a lot of the parasites will obviously start breeding within the den sites, and it'll become a bit messy. So they move out for a few weeks or a month to a new den site, and then can come back once Mother Nature's kind of naturally cleaned out their den sites. So yeah, I've noticed with my history of viewing hyena that they may have 4 or 5 den sites within about a kilometer radius, and they bounce between them every couple of weeks or a month or so. Thanks, Kelly. That was another good question. KP on Twitter's just asked a question, whether or not the pregnant female hyena has been seen recently. I believe she has been seen. I'm not sure whether it was by Hayden or Peter, but I remember one of them talking about it recently. So she is around, and hopefully she will give birth soon. It's always very difficult to tell when they will drop their young. And when she does, it'll probably be at least 2 weeks before they emerge from the den site. So once we see that she has given birth, we'll have about a 2-week wait at minimum before we have any chance of seeing the little fur balls. Really cute newborn hyena pups. They're a charcoal black color, uniform charcoal black color, and as the months progress, at around 4 months of age, they start becoming lighter in shade and the spots start developing. But sadly no sign of her at the den site this morning. She may be out looking for food, and we'll definitely be monitoring this den site closely, KP. So this afternoon I'm sure somebody will pop in for another look, and like I say, we'll be sure to keep everyone in the loop as to how she's progressing with her pregnancy. The questions are flowing through wonderfully this morning, folks. It really does help. Thank you. Another question has just come through from Mauricia on Twitter. She asked at what age would this youngster start following the clan and heading out to either hunt or scavenge? A very good question. Like I mentioned earlier, they suckle for up to a year and sometimes slightly over that, depending on the individual. Therefore, they have no necessity to leave the den sites up until about that age. It will vary hugely on the individual. So I think it would be a safe guess to say that, or a safe bracket to work between would be anywhere from a year up to 18 months would be a likely age where they would start heading out with the clan. And interesting that you said hunt or scavenge. They do both, and all predators hunt and also scavenge. Leopards will scavenge from other leopards. A male will steal from a female. Lion will steal from leopard. Leopard and lion will steal from cheetah. So I think it's just through bad publicity that the hyena have been bracketed as the scavengers, because in certain areas, something it seems like a flea may have got hold of this youngster, really jolted it into action. In certain areas, as I was saying, they've done research and they've found that the clans of hyena in these areas have their kills stolen from them by lion. So a lot depends on the area. Where we are here in the Sabi Sands, I think it is fair to say that the hyena rely more on scavenging than hunting. That's not to say that they don't hunt. I know on the Djuma waterhole camera they've captured a hyena chasing an impala into the waterhole at night and then eventually grabbing it as it left the water. So that they do hunt, but they do a lot of scavenging here. And a possible theory to explain that would be there's a very high density of leopards here. Now, leopards are a lot easier. It is very interesting to see how they live and operate within different areas throughout Africa. But thanks for that question. That was another good one. Another question's just come through from Pamela on Twitter. She's asking, what is the advantage of the hyena having shorter back legs than forelegs? And there's a few other animals like this, not necessarily carnivores, but you find animals that cover big distances, or endurance animals, sometimes have this anatomy. And what this does is it's termed a long gait, and it creates often a large chest cavity, and within a large chest cavity it obviously can hold big lungs and therefore allow these animals who need to cover big distances to get enough oxygen to keep on the move, supply their body with enough oxygen to move high distances. Back to the previous question and joining Pamela's and the previous questions together, when the hyena do hunt, they are typically endurance hunters, and they will run prey down for kilometers, and they may almost take turns between the clan and relays. and chase, and then another one chases, and then another clan member puts harder pressure on one certain animal, and they literally chase them down until they collapse. So this is an important factor, I think, in why their anatomy is like that. It's to allow them to have big organs which can power them through long distance events. But I will double check up on that, Pamela, and see if I can come up with any other information. But that I do know is one contributing factor to their anatomy. This closely, as I said. Whether we come back a bit later on this morning's drive, I'm not too sure. We'll see how things pan out. But I think Hayden's searching in other parts of the reserve, and I'm just going to get into another area where I think we could find some action. But in the meantime, it's back to Hayden. Enjoy, and we'll see you later.
Nice spot, folks. This is really nice. We've come up to Buffelshoek Dam, where we've seen many a thing. We've seen some incredible things happen here, but what we do have is an array of bird life around this area, including some birds that we've seen and a couple that we haven't seen. But we might start off by talking about these wonderful creatures in front of us. Many of us know what that is. That is not logs or rocks, but yes, hippopotamus. And there's actually 1, 2, 3, about 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in here, more than I've seen since we've been here for the past month. And certainly females will be accepted into a territory. Males definitely will not be as tolerated as females will by the dominant bull. There's a few calves in here as well, which is quite beautiful to see. And there's a very young one over, and he's a little bit unconfident. He's over to the right. He might be coming over this way, and it's really a matter of being in the right place at the right time with the camera to see him come up and get a little breath of air and go back down with his mum. There she is, just top of the screen there, top of the screen, a little bit further up. Yeah, that's the one, and there should be a little calf there. Look at that little guy. That's pretty nice. And that's a bit of a youngster. Really nice. Just got a question from Josh on email. Hi Josh, and welcome aboard. Great question. It's a question that gets... Isn't that a great sound? Great sound. Fantastic. We've got a really nice little herd of hippo here. Pod, herd, many different collective nouns. And your question, Josh, was how long can a hippopotamus hold its breath underwater? Well, you get a lot of different sort of answers on this, Josh. Most of the books say between 5, 7, 8 minutes. I have read some slightly different answers to that. Some people saying up to 30. I've never seen that before. I've worked with hippo for many years, and It's normally shorter. I mean, who knows if a hippo was pushed to its limits, how long it could hold its breath for. But generally speaking, Josh, it's about 5 to 7 minutes, and they only do that when they really have to. If there was danger, or you can watch these individuals here, they'll drop their head under for maybe I don't know, 60 seconds, if that, sometimes, and then just bring themselves up, because there's no pressure to do that. So going underwater for those periods of time would be definitely in a situation where they were trying to get out of danger, or they were quite concerned about something around them. But these animals here are just very, very relaxed with us, very relaxed in their situation, in their safety zone, which is the water, of course. So I'd say that in a nutshell, Josh, it's about 5 to 7 minutes, and probably longer at a push, but sometimes I've read things of 30, and I just I'm not sure how accurate that may be, but who knows, but generally 5 to 7 minutes. Just got a message, a tweet from Chris on Twitter. Hi Chris, great to have you with us. A question about whether hippos can float or swim. They definitely have a buoyancy about them, but it's not like they float like a inflatable boat or anything like that. They definitely have a slight buoyancy about them, but one of the misconceptions about hippos is that they actually swim underwater, and those legs are motoring along like a boat, but really what's happening is, Chris, they prefer habitat or watercourses that have gradual shallow edges to them, and that way they can congregate close to the water's edge. And what happens then is they run underwater. They actually are submerging themselves and running along the bottom in this very sort of underwater, and they can get along. They can really get along. So they look like they're actually swimming, but they're actually sort of running along the border, and because of their buoyancy level, they sort of, it's a bit like a diver, I suppose, getting their buoyancy vest as they're scuba diving to the right level, so they're sort of at not neutral, but they've got a little bit of buoyancy, and that's what the hippos can do. I have to tell you something, Chris, also, and everyone else, that never ever let that sort of cumbersome sort of bulk give you a false sense of security, because I've been in a situation before when I was observing some hippos with a friend of mine in Zimbabwe, and Karen was taking me down to show us these hippos, and she had this incredible connection with these hippos, but we just got a little too close one day, and it's very, very difficult. Hippos don't have any sort of middle ground. They're sort of either very relaxed or very unrelaxed, and they will let you know that very, very quickly. And one of them decided to give us a little indicator of we were too close, and came out of the water at speed, and it was like the bow wave hit it was like one of those military personnel carriers landing on a beach. It was an incredible thing, and we were running as fast as we could up onto some higher ground, but really, really important to take great care with hippopotamus. They're fantastic creatures, but they've got incredible capabilities as well, so really important to understand that. But great question, Chris. Thank you very, very, very much. There's a very, very young one in there. I just got a question from Darlene on email, and Darlene wants to know, do the hippos get out of water and walk around, and what do they eat? Well, they do get out of the water pretty much every night, Darlene. They go off in the cooler parts of the day, which is normally the night. They go off at dusk, and they head off into the bush, into some really nice grazing areas. Hippopotamus have been designed or are designed to graze grass very, very efficiently, and they will go to areas that have got really good grazing, and with that really wide mouth, they will use their lips to pull off grass and take back into those molars and grind up. They spend several hours a night out of the water, depending on food availability and what distance they have to travel. But if the food is close to the water, they'll spend less time out of the water, and obviously if it's further away, they have to do a lot more travelling. They don't eat aquatic plants, which a lot of people think they do. Well, as soon as they get too hot, because they do have very sensitive skin, they will get back into the water. We just got a great question from Jen in Clover, North Carolina. And Jen, fantastic. Thank you so much and welcome aboard. Sorry, South Carolina, I do apologise. You have basically just brought me in a perfect way to talk about what I was going to talk about eventually. And that was, where is our hippo? Well, Jen wants to know, and I'm sure all of you want to know, if we have any news on the injured hippo that we've been following for the past sort of 4 or 5 days. Nearly a week now, I think. I did stick my head up here into this little pond, this dam here, to see if, I don't know, there was a chance that he was on the periphery or up in the corner or something like that, but it was highly unlikely with the dominant bull here. Excuse me. Yeah, he hasn't been seen, Jen, and everyone else that's been asking. We looked over on Arathusa the last couple of days. I think we clocked him and got him visual about 48 hours ago, but we haven't seen him since. So I've been asking some of the guides as well if they've seen him on any dams, and I'll continue to do that to try and find out what his location is. You know, there's a few scenarios that could have unfolded there. He may have not been recovering as we thought in the water like that. If its vigor and vitality is improving, when we're sort of only getting glimpses of him over the days. So when we did see him last, he was lying in the water on Arathusa, looking a little bit brighter, but not much. And we don't know the severity of those wounds. That really severe wound on his right shoulder and on his right hindquarter, and then we spotted his. And I think it was one of the wonderful viewers that are with us on the vehicle saw a sort of injury on his spinal column towards the rear as well. So it's a really tricky situation, everyone. He could potentially have moved on to another waterhole and be recovering somewhere else that we don't know about. He could have died without a doubt and moved out of the water. and just died somewhere, which we probably would have known about because we would have seen or heard that activity by other guides and things like that. And also there's lots of aerial indicators for us, particularly vultures, which we would have seen, or he could have been so debilitated by those wounds that he could have fallen prey to lions. Now, lions would rarely attack a hippo unless it was in a situation like that, and he was on his last sort of hours of living. A lion would pretty much make a pretty wide berth around hippo, but it does happen. It does happen. There's always exceptions to the rule, as we always say. So they're the sort of scenes or the scenarios that I can see unfolding, everyone, and we'll definitely keep our eye to head over that way this morning. But everyone's keeping their eyes out, and Pete particularly, and I trying to track down the whereabouts of this hippo. But yeah, that's where we stand, everyone. So I'll definitely keep you updated on that one. Hi Amanda. Amanda's just asked us a question from Pittsburgh. Welcome to you. And a few other people have asked as well whether the animal that we've got the sort of shot of that looks, you can't really see his head at the moment. I'm actually not sure if it's a male or a female, to be honest with you, because there's a calf that keeps popping up right next to that individual, and he or she's got an injury on her back. Now, that injury would have been inflicted by another hippo, I'm gathering, just looking through the binoculars now. It's not, yeah, it is a bull, I think it is the bull. It's just a bit hard to tell. There was a little, I don't know, yeah, I think it is the bull, the dominant bull. But that injury is okay. It's not as severe as we've seen on the other animal, that's for sure. And it probably will heal quite nicely. Hippos have an incredible healing ability, as we've mentioned before, and it's something that to do with the water and the way that their chemical makeup is, I suppose. But what they do is I've seen in captivity, particularly with the hippos I used to look after, if they would have had a bit of a scrap themselves, it was a male and a female, and one of them came off with an injury, we used to see it heal miraculously, and it was something to do with just their ability to heal, and the skin used to granulate up around the wound very, very quickly, and day after day you'd see massive improvement in those wounds. So see that little baby there? I'm not sure if that is a male, you know. That little baby behind it is very, very close. Very, very close to that individual. And that size youngster would not be hanging around the dominant bull like that as much as it is. A little bit older maybe. Okay folks, well we're going to to sit with these guys for a little bit longer. Scott's got a really lovely herd of elephant with him at the moment, so why don't you cross to Scott, and we'll just sit here for a little bit longer and watch what happens at this water point. But just to round up on the hippo, a lot of hippo in here. I'm not sure if that could be a cow to me, because she's got a calf very, very close to her. But don't worry about that injury. That injury will heal up. That's nothing in the greater scheme of things for hippos. Let's cross to Scott and see what he's got there. It sounds fantastic.
The bird we can hear calling is a rattling cisticola. Very distinctive call. There we go. A good way to identify the sex of an elephant by looking at the top of their head, their forehead, and especially when they are broadside to you, like this one is at the moment, you'll notice the top of its head is quite rounded. A female's head, where the forehead kind of meets the top of the head, would be a lot more angular and square. So that is one of the easier ways of determining their sex. This is a young bull, I would guess between 10 and 12 years old. You can notice all the mud caked on its head, and where little bits of that dried mud have fallen off. It'll need to go sign into a health spa soon. Here on the road we've got a beautiful, beautiful big male now. Look at the size difference between the two. Oh, wonderful. Judging from his body language, he's showing a little bit of interest or excitement in us, so he kind of flared open his ears there. But now he's back to normal. Beautiful. As I was saying before, that big bull walked into the road, the youngster, you could see all the mud caked on its head, and they'll cover themselves in mud that then dries and creates a protective covering against ectoparasites. And it also, we've got some more crossing the road here. Wonderful. It also suffocates and encapsulates any parasites that are on their body, and then they can go up to a tree and scrape off that dried mud, and that way it also peels off any ectoparasites that have managed to latch onto them. This one appears to be quite excited. I'm not sure about what. There's no ladies around, but maybe they're following a herd of females. Who knows? Just going to try and reverse a little bit more. There's one more that I know of. On the right hand side of the road, the rest seem to have crossed. copying you very clearly. If you could just speak loud and slowly, please. Okay, copy that. Confirm we're still live. If we watch closely, we may see a small piece of grass drop from its mouth. It doesn't happen all the time, but what they sometimes do is, once they have pulled out a clump of grass or a small sapling out the ground, they'll bite it off at the base of the stem, thus dropping the sandy roots behind them. This one might give us a bit of action. His tail is telling me a story. It's kind of out vertically, but you see how its tail there is poking out vertically. That can be a sign that they are going to misbehave. Oh, multitasking. Food in the one end, waste out the other. We've got a question all the way from Brooklyn. Lever's asking, how do you age an elephant? It is a guesstimate. There's obviously a lot of records and photographs of ages of certain animals, and that can give you a rough idea of how old it may be, judging on its size. But just like humans, you can get a 12-year-old that is far more mature and larger than a fellow classmate. So a lot does depend on genetics and the individual. So it is important to know when we do quote ages, or when I speak for myself with this, when I do quote ages, it is a rough estimate just to give you an idea of a ballpark of how old that animal may be. This is beautiful. He's only a few meters away from us. And very, very relaxed, despite my initial concerns with that horizontal tail that he was wagging around. You'll notice as he flaps his ear, I'll try and change the angle slightly here, but it can only be seen from behind. The network of large veins that run in those ears. So if we just found, there we go, perfect, good work, Brian. So the surface area of the elephant's body is made up 20% of the elephant's surface area is made up by those massive ears, and you would have noticed that network of veins and arteries running through there, and that's their cooling system, which allows them to acquire the massive amounts of foliage they need to eat every day. I can hear something behind us. I just want to listen closely. It's Sounds like a kudu alarm calling. Oh, yeah, and there they go. There's a few running off, so just stand by. You see them all running? Let me see what's going on here. Okay, a bit of action. All the elephants are getting excited, so we're going to have to watch out that they don't give us too much trouble. Okay, so it's very thick here, but we'll try our best to get in to where I heard those alarm calls coming from. Let's see what scared them off. The kudu's alarm callers, they're still alarm calling, which is great. It's similar to a dog barking, would be one way of describing it. And thankfully we've got this little track here that's going to take us down to where we heard these alarm calls coming from. See if we can hear any other alarm calls, not only from the kudu, but birds, squirrels. All the animals would have heard those kudu alarm calls and kind of tuned into the fact that there's danger and be on the lookout. So because it's so thick, trying to drive in would be a huge gamble. I'd rather be stationary, listening to any signs that might be able to guide us in a little bit closer. Whew, that got me excited. You do have to act quickly when you hear alarm calls, because there's a strong chance that the predator may try and slink off as quick as possible before everyone jumps on the bandwagon and completely gives away its position. So it was just over to our right where the calls came from and where the rest of that herd came running past us from. And there is kind of a natural game trail that whatever scared them may continue walking down towards us. Sadly, we have not been given any other signals from squirrels or birds, so now we are just going to drive around a little bit more slowly and see if we can't find any tracks or any other clues. Perfect vegetation for a predator to ambush its prey, and you can see it's very thick. But despite that, or even considering how thick it is, the prey animals have got the odds stacked in their favor when it comes to getting away from the predators. I'm just going to get out and have a quick look on the road here for any tracks, and this might tell us whether anything's moved down this road or what direction it was moving in, if it did move down the road. So excuse me for a second. I can hear a squirrel alarm calling there. So we'll go there rather than looking for tracks. I didn't see any tracks, but now there's squirrels just started alarm calling. The problem with, not the problem, but the thing to bear in mind when a squirrel is alarm calling is that it could be elevated and it could be 50 meters away or 60 meters away from whatever it's seeing. But we will head towards where it was calling now. Whew. My heart is racing. What I think we can safely assume from the way the alarm calls have moved, they're moving kind of in a southerly direction, and initially it was the kudu, and now this squirrel started further south, so it's fair to assume that this animal is moving south and just on the side of the road. So let's see if we can creep in here. It seems to have opened up a bit. And hopefully, with a bit of luck, we will find whatever it is that's causing the unrest. What to do, what to do. Just like us, animals tend to take the path of least resistance, and there is a bit of a pathway following these power lines. Now there's Franklin alarm calling nearby, just ahead of us to the right. Come on, leopard. Or whatever you are. Potentially a leopard. very, very thick here, which isn't aiding in locating whatever it is that's lurking in the shadows here. Just gonna have so in terms of what to do, there's no set rule or set formula that works in a situation like this. We could drive around as much as possible trying to cover ground, which, yes, in certain respects would increase your chances of finding it, but when you're driving, the chance of you hearing an alarm call is a lot less. So I tend to prefer to sit and listen and be directed to something by alarm calls than to drive around trying to cover ground. So I'm not too... Yeah. It is getting very hot, so it's quite nice to be parked in the shade for a while, and I should actually put my hats on when we head back out. Well, Brian, I don't know about you, but that was exciting.
That was really exciting.
When the initial alarm call came from the kudu, Brian just shouted or whispered to me, "What's that?" And then all hell broke loose. When I was reversing the car quite hastily and revving the engine, the elephants got a bit excited, and then the kudu came streaming past, which was great for you guys to see. The action all unfolding. We were really lucky considering the bush was so thick that we got to see all the kudu fleeing from whatever predator that was. And then the excitement of, as I got off the vehicle to look for tracks, the squirrels started alarm calling and then had to jump back in and keep searching. It certainly was an exciting few moments that we've just experienced. Now everything's kind of quietened down and goes to show that these predators are good at disappearing when they want to. Just going to have a quick look at the map and establish where we are exactly. I haven't been onto this area of the reserve yet. Just going to ask Brian to help me. Not the most technology savvy guy around, so there we go. Thanks, Brian. Okay, well, we are on Ellie Alley, apparently. I think I'm just gonna do a U-turn and drive back the way we've just come from, because, like I said, appeared to be heading in a southerly direction. It would have been following the movements of the predator, so it still may have been in the block north of where we had just driven. Okay. So now we are heading in the general direction that the alarm calls appeared to be following the predator in. So we'll just spend a little bit of time here snooping about. It does seem to have quietened down though. That's not to say the predator's disappeared. It's got to be here somewhere, but as you can see, it is very thick and it could be anywhere. But at least we are we know that there's something about. Also interesting to note that even though it is getting hot now, predators are still on the move. So we mustn't rule out the fact that predators only move at night or hunt at night or only when it's cool. I've seen leopard on the move in the middle of the day on sweltering hot summer's days. So yes, they are obviously more inclined to be on the move when it's cool, but that doesn't rule out the fact that they will move during the daylight and during the heat. For me, the thrill of the chase following up on alarm calls, you can't beat it. Tracking animals is also a rush, but it's a different kind of rush. You've got more time and it's more of a process and a kind of challenge, mental challenge, you versus the animal. Whereas when you hear alarm calls, it's stop everything you're doing and get in there as quick as possible while you've still got a chance of potentially seeing where the animal that is alarm calling is looking. Monkeys are special. That's indicated.
Degrees higher than we felt before. Sun's broken through that cloud that we had this morning, which is beautiful. It feels really nice. Back. Finding a place in shade very soon. On a drive, going out on a safari is that, well, a safari is a whole journey, and it can be short. It can be a journey from, you know, Johannesburg to Cape Town could be a safari, or you know, Mombasa to Nairobi, and the list goes on. That can be a safari. But we talk about our safari as a 3-hour journey in the morning on our vehicle, and the best way to do that and have most success is to maximize your time maximize your options wisely. Standing here by himself. Let me just drive up a little bit. He's just by himself in the bush here, wanting to be keeping his eyes out. Big boy. We might leave him in peace and carry on. I just want to get up to this location. We've got about 40 minutes to go. We've got about 40 minutes to go. But what I was mentioning was really important to maximize your time wisely and use your knowledge on temperature, location, intelligence on the ground that you've got from friends and other guides, and then just sort of concoct or construct the hottest part of the day, the middle of the day, from maybe about 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock upwards, depending on the weather pattern, is the time that most of the animals will start to get into the shade. Predators go off into the shade a little bit earlier than the hoofed animals, the ungulates or the herbivores, for one of the three names there. And the herbivores have got a little bit more tolerance to the heat, and also they maximize that time, and this is how evolution has occurred. You know, animals have found their niches or their spaces in the day to graze and minimize their risk of predation, minimize their risk of being eaten, basically. So when you're looking at something, elephants, they don't really have a worry with that as much as many of the other animals, but they still don't, like, you know, if it's the full-on sun, and a buck will either decide to get into vegetation or into a wooded area and places, or you go to a water point that will bonding time as well. So there's lots of different things that happen at different times of the day with different. The midday sun feeding, or is ruminating, which is a fantastic ability that they have to maximize their food, maximize their efficiency in eating. Yeah, get off. This is a bit of a dodgy signal area for me, so don't really have an option but just to go in here now. looking at getting to safer ground here now, folks. I just want to get up, see if we can have a little look at this bird up here. Liam, it's very, very hard, mate. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try for you. It's a battler eagle, and we haven't seen one of them yet, but he's in the sky, and oh goodness, where's he gone? There he is, there he is. Okay, really tricky here, Liam. I'm sorry, mate. There he is, off in, gliding around. He's just up in there. Can you see him? He's a battler eagle. Now, we haven't seen that bird or put it on our list yet. Very tricky for VM to follow, but you're doing a fine job tracking that eagle there, mate. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Really nice job, mate. I just want to point out a couple of features, and the one is that really stubby or short tail. It's a really distinct feature of the battler. Okay, I'm going to bring it up for you here on the, I'll just move up a little bit closer so I've got a bit more, I'm confident with my signal, folks, so I don't break up for you. Let's get up here. Let's have a quick chat about the battler. Beautiful, one of my favourite birds in Africa. Not for their call this time, but for their look and how spectacular they are. They're a beautiful, beautiful bird. I just want to get into a little bit of shade for him here. Just a little spot just here on this road might be good enough for us. Got a bit of broken shade here, and just want to show you this on the app, folks. So as I'm getting the app up and just getting a picture of this for you, the battler is a beautiful bird that soars like no other bird, and it will soar with its wings out and tip from side to side. Battler being French for tightrope walker. Excuse my grasp of schoolboy French there, but let me just got to try, and I did have it set up before if we came across one. I don't know if I've got it on this. I hope I have. Please, I have. If I can't find it really quickly now, I will come back and find it for you in this afternoon's drive, folks. So I do apologise. Instead of wasting time, I'll come back to that bird when we see it again, and I'll get it up on the app. But we'll talk about it a bit more. It's such a beautiful eagle, and they really are spectacular. They've got a gorgeous eye, beautiful coloration, beautiful bill. That he was soaring around there looking for food in this open area, and we can talk a bit more about it. Just a little bit pushed for time, and I want to maximise our time. If that bird was sitting right in front of us, I could have had the vision on there for you, but I'll get it up on the app and talk about it a little bit more later on this afternoon. So yeah, just to talk about, you know, I want to also not just talk specifically about animal. I think it's really nice to learn a little bit as we're going on our drives about why we do what we do and how we do it. We've talked a little bit about that sort of invisible zone with animals that we get to know over time, and it's not just species specific, it can be individual specific as well. There's in between, within that group of elephants, you might have that invisible zone. It's the fight or flight area. Fight being that they would actually find us a threat, and flight where we actually have put fear into them and they've run. And that's not what we want to do either time. We want to work ourselves out into being just beyond or right on the edge of that fight or flight zone, and that's exactly what we a couple of little dwarf mongers running around here. We want to be right on the edge of that. That's really important that we stay on the edge of that, and you've seen that in the past days, particularly with that elephant, that beautiful matriarch in that herd that allowed us to come up very close to her, and then she walked past us. She was in that comfortable zone. That zone isn't actually set in stone either. That zone can vary hugely depending on the animal's temperament, history and personality. So generally speaking, it's a really hard one to put a finger on, folks, because you can drive up to a herd of impala. They will really stay very close, and others will fly away from you. Just excuse me, folks, I've just got someone calling me. HT copy. Across the fire break back northwest as well, so haven't seen anything there, buddy. Off and went their separate ways. All I wanted to do was work with animals. That's all I ever wanted to do. And then when I had the opportunity to do a study of plants and horticulture a little bit, I saw an ad in the paper to go for this job at Taronga Zoo in Sydney, Australia, which is one of the finest zoos in the world. And that's where my life really did change. That zoo director at the time, and assistant director and many other people. I just thank them forever for that, because that's really what changed my world. I got the taste. I'd always had the desire to go to Africa, but that's what gave me the taste. They gave me the taste. And in 1992, when I stepped foot off that plane in Zimbabwe and smelt the air and met the people and saw the habitat and the landscape and the animals, that was it. That was it for me. Yeah. So, we'll talk more about that as time goes on. More about, let me just show you something. I'm going to try and collect a few things as we go here. Hope I don't drive over that. Let me just pick this up. Excuse me for a second. Okay, I want a better one. I'm looking for a particular piece of dung to show you, and we need to talk about dung, folks. It was my business for 10 years. It was my life. I was a zookeeper. I picked it up. I think my mate and I, Anthony, worked out that over 10 years we shoveled about I think it was about nearly 1,000 tons of elephant poo, elephant dung, elephant feces, elephant scat, whatever you like to call it. There's all different words for it, but it's a really important part of the bush. that we look at constantly, and as a zookeeper, it was basically the topic of conversation most mornings. You can tell a lot from an animal about an animal's health from that, but also it's a great discussion point in the bush. And I really want to show you something about hoofed animals. We might not be able to do it right now, but I might work towards that this afternoon. I just want to find you a selection of different dung, and I want to different dung, and I want to do a little comparison for you. That might be. Now I need to get the right ones. I'm going to try and get as many as I can, and I'll try and collect some for you over the next few hours. And I might have them in the vehicle, and when I come back, we might have a little talk on dung. It's a really incredible thing to see what these animals eat, and I'm only talking about the hoofed animals. So I'm not talking about the lion and leopard and things like that. That's a little bit of a different conversation. But let's discuss that this afternoon, and I'll get a selection of different dung to show you, and then we can have a really good look. Talking of dung, have a look at that. There's a great shot of some dung beetles. That was perfectly timed, Mr. Dung Beetles. Thank you very much, and Mrs. And they are going off to bury that somewhere in some soft sandy soil with their eggs laid inside that, and they are doing a fine job there. Here we go, down the hill. Whoop. And they're going to move that off to a place where they can bury that, and the eggs will hatch into larvae and eat that elephant dung. And they actually eat elephant dung, and it's basically their food source. Some particular species of dung beetles live within the dung. Look, we're right here right now. Why don't we just, whilst we've got those in the background, let me go up and get some of this elephant dung. See if I can just find a couple of other fantastic little guys. There's a lot of is that a good shot, Liam? Yeah, right there for you. Beautiful stuff. Bear with me for a second. I'm trying to look for some other matter. Stay there. I've got some other stuff here, which is good for me. Stay there. I'm coming back to you. Right, so I've got here. It's a bit wet, that stuff, but anyway, I was looking for some drier feces. Very small, you can see here. I'll try and hold it really still for you for a second. That's Impala. It's quite fresh, so it's still quite moist. I'm going to walk around with that and give you a little bit of a look closer at that in a second. But I've also got here some elephant dung, obviously very different. And you can see much more coarse. So what I'm going to do is come around to the side here and show you. I'll move slowly so VM can see. Is that probably a good spot, VM?
That works.
Okay. So what I'll just put this up on the dashboard for a second. What we've got here in my hand is Impala dung. And if I break that open now, It's going to be a really tight shot for him. I'm not sure how good you, sorry, not how good, but how tight you can get on that, mate. And I do apologise. It's, can you see there's quite a fibre, very, very fine fibre in that? Yeah? Do you want me to move closer?
We might lose focus. We can try.
I can try that for you. If that, I can. You might.
No, it's out of focus.
It's out of focus? Okay, I'll just come back here. The whole point I'm trying to get across to you folks is that this is a very, very fine used vegetation that has been, you know, passed through the animal system. This is an impala feces or dropping. Little tiny ball, very, very efficient, very compact. I'll try and find a drier one for you in a second. But tiny, tiny fibrous sort of bits inside that, okay? Now I'm just going to pop that just there, and I'm going to bring something else into shot. Have a little look at this. This is elephant dung. Very, very different. Okay, hope you're not having your breakfast or something, or dinner somewhere in the world at the moment. But very, very fibrous. And look, there's still sticks inside this. Pieces of stick and bark. I'll just break it open a little bit there. Very inefficient digestive system. Hence why the elephant has to actually consume so much vegetation every day. Bark, roots, grass, leaves, sticks, and a very inefficient system. Whereas the impala is an incredibly efficient digester. Now, I'll just try and find one down here for us, a little bit better. Okay, that's better, that's better. Have a look in my hand here, folks, now. Okay, now I'm just breaking that up. Very, very fine digestion on that. And what that is a ruminant. Now a ruminant, I'll pop these down now, and now I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. I think we've seen enough of animal dung for a second. A ruminant is one of the most efficient and most successful groups of hoofed animals that we have. I'm plugging back in. I can hear that. I'm sure Will has been going, okay, enough on the dung, enough on the dung. The interesting thing about it is this: if you know a little bit about how these animals work, Will's just telling me not to put my hands in my mouth. Yeah, well, I think I'm immune to that now, mate. I've been working with animals for so long now that you learn so much about them just from things like this. And when we talk about spoor, about tracks and signs, dung is a really, really important part of that. You know, you can tell a lot from how long it's been there, etc., etc. So just to talk a little bit, ever so quickly, about ruminants, and I'll touch on it again another time. They're a large group, very, very large group, ranging from all your antelope, goats, you know, your cattle, so your buffalo are in there as well. And they're animals that have an ability to regurgitate their food and chew it over again. So they've got a 4-chambered stomach, and they bring it up from the rumen in the first chamber in that stomach and chew it over again. Now, on the teeth of a ruminant, they've got molars at both sides at the back, and they've got incisors at the front, but none on the top. They've got a hard crushing plate. So what they do with those incisors, they grab the grass or the browse or whatever it is off, they pull it back into the mouth, then they move it back into their tongue and grind it together in these molars at the back. So we know all our molars are at the back and our incisors at the front. Now the reason for that is that they don't use those teeth at the front other than for removing food. And then what they do is they grind it up, pardon me, swallow it, and have the ability to bring it up again and chew it over again, maximizing the efficiency. They've got an incredible set of bacteria in their gut that breaks down cellulose, which is a very, very difficult thing, plant fiber, plant cellulose to break down, and then they can turn that into carbohydrate or into sugars and then start to get energy from that. So in a nutshell, they are probably the most successful group of hoofed animals, the ruminants. They're the impala, they are the wildebeest, and so on. Those big numbers of animals that graze massively and browse off all the vegetation. So they're very efficient. So my point was that they are efficient the end of the spectrum of efficiency, they are incredibly high. Elephant, not so high. Yes, so sorry, it's just I'm not saying sorry, I'm just saying I did go on about it a little bit, but it's really important to understand that when you get into these animals and you start to understand more of them and more about them, it's not just about taking a photograph and pulling up and saying, oh wow, aren't they beautiful? You have got a vested interest, you've got a passion for this. You guys are watching this because you love wildlife and you love Africa. And when you know more about them, you know deeper understanding about how they work, how they interact, suddenly all the sort of the colors on the Rubik's Cube start to get on the same sides, and it's a really, really exciting thing, folks. I'm really passionate about it. We just got a tweet from Chris. Hi Chris, and Chris is saying that in San Francisco Zoo, I think that was, that you they sell their elephant poo, basically their elephant dung for fertilizer. And yeah, my zoo did used to do it. It was called Zoodoo, and it used to be sold, and it was got a little bit of a gimmick, but at the same time, fantastic fertilizer. And absolutely, I mean, most animal dung, particularly the hoofed animals, is fantastic fertilizer. So yeah, you can always mix that organic matter in with your soil at home, guys, and go for it, but you'll have to go down to your local zoo to get that sort of thing. Yeah, it's just a really interesting subject, folks, to understand a bit about how the inner workings of these animals work. And you know, I could bang on about it for longer than I have, but any questions, please feel free. Who used to work at Wild Earth, who now works for Will. I think it's really interesting. I'd love to meet Tara one day. It's a very interesting subject, and you can get a lot from finding. I think it's really interesting. I'd love to meet Tara one day. It's a very interesting subject, and you can get a lot from finding animal dung and sort of putting it into the puzzle of what's been around in the night or the day and where you are, and some of the behaviours that they do. You know, impala sometimes have something called a midden, where or a latrine, where they'll all come and do it at the same point, and it's a little bit of a sort of an area where they might try and throw some dominancy around or congregate. Rhinoceros will definitely have a dung midden on the sides of roads. You see them often. You'll see elephant, they pretty much do it anywhere. They don't have any behaviour like that. But you know, tracks and signs and all these little things that add up to our picture of the animal on the planet is really, really great to have the knowledge on, and it might be a subject for discussion, sort of for dessert and coffee rather than main meal, but it's definitely something worth having a chat about, and it's a good bit of fun as well. But I'll definitely try and get one together. That'll be really good fun if everyone's up for it. I'll line some different dungs up along the dashboard here, and we'll see. We'll put a little number next to them, maybe just 5 or something like that. We'll put a little number next to them and see who gets it right. Anyway, that'll be good fun. So I'm laughing at myself here that I've just spent the last 10 minutes talking about dung. But anyway, it was my job. Well, everyone, yes, you got it right. You've got number 1 right. It is elephant on the end there. It's a little bit of a it's a little bit of an odd shaped one. I broke it in half. Elephants, it is elephant dung. So congratulations to everyone on Twitter. Maybe I'll just do one particular species a day or something like that. That could be quite fun as well. And get you to tweet in the things we do, hey? It is elephant, and normally they come, you know, it's a big bolus, what we call a bolus, like that, and then the dung beetles and also the hornbills will have a tendency to rip that apart. The hornbills will be looking for dung beetles and other insects, and then the dung beetles will be rolling it into a ball, meticulously rolling it into a ball, and then going off to bury that. Josh, you've said something, I think if it's the same Josh, you've done some great questions, and Josh, this is a question that I am very, very familiar with the answer of, that's for sure. I'll stop in the shade here for a second. Josh has just asked, are giraffes ruminants? And if they are, he thinks they are, and if they are, isn't it a really inefficient sort of way to eat or digest, seeing with that really, really long neck? Well, Josh, they are ruminants, and they're probably, I would say, probably the most efficient ruminant because of their size. You think of that size of that animal, it's found a special niche in the vegetation line that isn't really exploited by any other animal other than elephant, and it feeds on that niche of vegetation. It has the ability to live in very arid areas on very little vegetation, which I've seen in, for example, places like Namibia and edges of the Kalahari in Botswana, where the vegetation, you wouldn't think giraffes could survive there, but sure enough, you see these giraffes out in the middle of the driest, hottest deserts. I'm not talking about sandy deserts, I'm talking about stony deserts, okay, so it's still classified as desert country. With minimal rainfall, so they have a great ability to digest their food and get the most out of it. Now, when you do see a giraffe regurgitating that rumen, it goes up its neck, and you actually see a ball about that round go all the way up its neck, and come back in, and then into the corner of its cheek. And then it will sit there exactly the same and grind it over again in those molars, and I guarantee you it's the most interesting thing to see. Incisors on the bottom row of the teeth, and on the top a very, very hard crushing plate on giraffes that is very, very prominent when you see a giraffe up close. But yep, they are ruminants, incredibly efficient, and it will go right up their neck, and you actually can physically see that ball, like the size of a softball or a baseball type of size, go up the neck and or bigger than a baseball, and right up the neck and into the cheek. So great question, mate. And I have worked with giraffe for such a long time. I used to always amaze me how they do that, and great stuff. I'm just going to get us down onto quarantine. We've come back really sort of where we started this morning to close and say farewell.
Ellis.
What's that?
Ellis.
Oh, wow, okay. My eyes in the sky has just spotted elephants on quarantine, so let's go and finish with them. That's very apt. Can I get to quarantine with my elephant on the front?
Actually,
yep.
yes, that road roller.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go back and quickly go down this little side road because VM has spotted them there. We've got 5 minutes to go. Oh my goodness, aren't they glorious? And I wonder who this herd is. Hello my friends. Hello everyone. We're just coming in here to say hi, so you know we're here. We're going to sit in the shade here. You lovely creatures. Isn't that beautiful? What a way to finish, eh? Look at that little baby on the right there. Now I'm not sure if this is... Oh, it is. It's our friend. Look at this. On the left here, folks. On the left. This is the broken tusk female that's been so lovely to us. And there's this little boy here on my left. He's being a bit cheeky. But broken tusk female is this one on the left of your camera, swishing her tail with her youngster. Oh, how fantastic. We've got 3 minutes to go, folks, or just under. So I'll start to wind up, and you don't need to see my head anymore today. You've seen enough of that. There's these beautiful animals in front of you, and the pictures will stay on that. But I'll just say farewell, and I'll say thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. It's been an absolutely beautiful drive, starting off with lions, crossing over to Scott with elephant and that kudu and lovely stuff, and the hippopotamus we saw, hyena as well. Scott saw those beautiful hyenas. So it's been a really beautiful drive this morning. I've enjoyed it immensely, and I've enjoyed having you with us hugely as well. We love your questions. Thank you for everything that you've sent. And I really want to also bang on home again, if there's any educators watching or teachers or teaching assistants, to really get in contact and try and get your school group or your class watching if they can, and it works for you. We'd love to have you. Just going to move up a little bit closer because she knows us now, and we'll still just so you've got some lovely vision of these elephants to finish on. They're just feeding their way through here. It's okay, friends. All right. Look at this little guy. How beautiful is that? That is just a piece of magic, isn't it? So beautiful. And basically, I just want to say thanks. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for what. It's okay, guys. It's okay. Lovely stuff. It's okay, my boy. It's okay, boy. It's okay, buddy. Absolutely fine. Everyone's fine. There you go. Take care, folks. We'll see you this afternoon.